In today's video, I'm going to show you how I made this Father's Day wreath. I found this idea floating around on Pinterest and I wish I knew who invented it so I could give them a high five because I think this is such a cute idea. I'm going to guide you through every single step so that you can make one just like this. So grab all your stuff and let's get crafty.
This is Mary. Welcome to the IHC craft room.
For materials, we'll begin with a 13-inch wire wreath ring, some burlap garland, a collared button-down shirt, a tie with a tie clip, some wooden letters, and a plastic rose for the lapel. We've got a lot of tools for this one. We're going to start with a pair of scissors, a glue gun, and some zip ties. That's all she wrote. Let's get started on the base of our wreath. We'll start by tucking this burlap under the base and then wrapping the burlap over itself to keep the end in place. This burlap garland is incredibly easy to work with as long as you aren't too aggressive, or you might just poke a hole through it. Who, me? Not me. I didn't almost poke a hole in it. I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, we're just going to wrap this burlap garland around and around, making sure to overlap each time and ensure that you don't miss any and see the wire poking through. This is definitely one of the easiest bases I've ever worked with. Once we're done wrapping the garland, I'm just going to flip the base over, put quite a lot of glue on that side, and then glue this burlap down securely before we cut off the excess. That's all. Now we'll just let the glue dry while we move on to the star of the show. For this part, I recommend you use a super old, never to be worn again, button-down collared shirt. Since my husband only had like one white collared shirt that we need, I actually went to my local thrift store, Value Village, and picked up this shirt for $7. Thanks so much. And this tie, well, this tie has been around since the 90s, so it's ready for a new life too. I'm gonna let you in on a secret. It turns out that this tie and collar combo was the equivalent of a bow for me. Geez, Louisa, I could have monkeyed around with that tie and collar for ages. I thought I spent forever fluffing bows, but straightening a tie? I'm fairly sure I lost a week on that. What month is this? Anyway, let's move on to cutting up this shirt. I'm not done with the tie though, we'll get back to that a little later. For the shirt, I'm just going to cut right along the seam so that you can't see my crooked cutting job, and all you'll really see is this strip of shirt with the buttons. I'll do the same thing on the other side of the buttons before cutting along the collar of the shirt too, all the way around, and then removing the excess material that we don't need. Next, we're going to focus on the collar and tie. I want to make sure they don't separate and look sloppy. I'm going to do that with the help of my spicy compadre Gregorio the glue gun. We're going to put a hella ton of glue all around this collar. And in essence, we're going to glue this collar completely shut with the tie tucked neatly inside. Easy if you're a normal person. But if you're like me, then be prepared for some toasty fingertips. Oh, Greg, our love affair continues. Now, before I start gluing this collar down to the base of our wreath, I need to spend a couple of seconds removing the tag from the collar, or I'll have a recurring nightmare about it for weeks to come. Using the help of these clothespins and a generous amount of glue, I'm going to secure this collar down, and I'm going to make sure that the clothespins are really well clamped on there to help the collar really stick to the base of our wreath. Then, pulling this strip of material with the buttons taut, I'm going to wrap that material over the base of the wreath and clip it in place with a clothespin before trimming off the excess and gluing it down really well. It's time to decide on what word to put on this wreath. I debated between three options. Dad, which I think is the most universal. The second option was Pop, which is a name some of my brothers use for my dad. And Papa, which is what I've called my dad for as long as I can remember. In the end, I think Dad looked the best, so that's what I went with. And now for a finishing touch that just really makes this whole wreath for me. We're gonna add one crisp red rose to the lapel of our suit wreath, but not quite yet. First, I'm gonna glue down those wood letters. I wanna make sure I'm using enough glue that the letters stay on firmly, but not so much glue that you see it seeping out of the sides, you know? Let's keep it clean and classy. Okay, now we're ready to focus on attaching that pretty red rose. I'm even going to tuck the stem into the burlap garland. What a perfect little cherry on top. I just love it. I'm going to put a touch of glue just behind the rose to make sure it stays in place. Now let's finish gluing down that tie while we're at it. I'm trying to get a nice ruffle or fold in the tie before we flip it over and focus on adding a zip tie ring to the back of this wreath to help hold it centered in place. I'll do that by forming a small tight circle with one zip tie and adding a generous amount of glue to the wreath base. I'll hold the zip tie circle firmly in place in the pool of glue until it hardens. Yup, Just wait it out. You got this. You are a patience champ. I just know it. Once that's dry, we'll slip another zip tie through the loop and tighten it up, and then tie some jute cord on there so we can hang this guy up on the wall. And do you know what time it is now? You betcha. It's reveal time. So what do you think? Do you think my daddy-o is gonna like this wreath? I bet he will. Thank you for joining me on this upcycled, button-down collared, 90s tie revival, suit-inspired Father's Day wreath wrapped in burlap and topped with a bright red rose. Whew, my God, do I need to stop with these long sentences. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial as much as I did. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe so that we can continue to get crafty together. Toodaloo!